Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special I Am Remarkable panel discussion in celebration of Women's History Month. For those of you who aren't familiar, I Am Remarkable is a global movement that empowers everyone, including underrepresented groups, to celebrate their achievements in the workplace and beyond, while challenging the social perception around self-promotion. Today, I'm joined by three fellow absolutely incredible and phenomenal panelists, and we are all from different countries today, different industries, and different backgrounds, but we have one thing in common. We are all I Am Remarkable facilitators, and we are community members, and we are advocates, and we're here today to share our I Am Remarkable stories with each of you. And we're going to chat amongst ourselves for a little bit, and then we're going to open it up for the conversation for the live audience and Q&A. So get those questions ready and start putting them in for this group of women into the chat box. And we're going to do our best to get to every single question out there. So go ahead and get started on that. Well, let me tell you who I am. I'm Tina Piccioni, and I'm joining you from Raleigh-Durham, North Carolina. And I'm thrilled to be your moderator and host. I am with Google, and I have been with Google for over 2 years, and I immediately got engaged with I Am Remarkable as soon as I found out about it. As a female in tech, I found I Am Remarkable is an incredible opportunity to help me find my voice, my community, and continue to empower women in tech. But without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to my fellow panelists to introduce themselves as well. Tequila, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tina, and hello, everyone. My name is Tequila Lopez, and I'm joining you all from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm so excited to be here. Professionally, I have a diverse background in nonprofit leadership, community engagement, diversity and inclusion, and human resources, and that's all come full circle to my current role as a director in social impact, where I lead end-to-end operations and growth of my company's multiple social impact programs, which include the Best Buy Teen Tech Centers, career pathways, teen internships, scholarships, and our Teen Tech Center volunteerism. But I'm also an enthusiastic traveler who's fascinated by culture and learning from others. And it's in that spirit that I began my own I Am Remarkable journey. My curiosity to learn about others, the way that culture shows up in different situations, and needing to not only use and exercise my voice in order to be seen, but also to be an advocate for others who have yet to find their voice, is something that set me on this path of owning my choices for career and for life. I've been so incredibly blessed to learn directly from multiple women of color who have poured courage into me in a way that has shaped who I am as a professional. It is through them that I learned to always lead with curiosity, to never worry about having a seat at the table, because I could just bring my own chair, to be clear and direct with others, but also to be sure to ask questions versus leaving things to assumption, and not to be afraid to have a differing opinion, and to always take pride and ownership of my brand. It is their shelter and their guidance that set a course for me to unapologetically grow into the professional that I am today, while also showing me firsthand the importance of me pouring into others so that they too can be remarkable. And with that, I'll turn it over to Natalie.
Hi, everybody. My name's Natalie. I'm from London. I work for Jellyfish. So a little bit about me. Firstly, I'm super excited to be here today. I come from very mixed heritage. So I've actually got a Brazilian mum and my dad's half Israeli Iraqi. And actually, I'm Remarkable is something I got introduced to in joining Jellyfish. I was really, really lucky to become the project owner for it. And based on my investment around some of the topics covered in the session, I found myself fully immersed in the initiative after participating and then becoming a facilitator. For me, I'm Remarkable felt really personal because I found that I was like many of us in some ways who I was a person who sometimes second guessed myself. And I'm not saying that I don't do this anymore. We're all human, and I'm sure most of us do this at the best of times. But it's been a really helpful shift in my mindset, opening up in front of a group of individuals to discuss like the achievements that perhaps I didn't give myself enough credit for before, and understanding things like imposter syndrome and how even like my cultural upbringing has impacted how I feel around the topic of self-promotion. So that's all from me, and I'm going to hand over to Xena.
Thanks, Natalie. Hello, everyone, and happy Ramadan to those celebrating Ramadan today. My name is Xena Janabi. I'm the Inclusion and Diversity Lead for PwC Middle East. My I'm Remarkable journey started a couple of years ago when actually an interesting story, when I received an invitation to attend I'm Remarkable workshop at PwC. So my immediate reaction was, well, I'm remarkable and I don't need a workshop to tell me that. Little that I know, that workshop had transformed my life and changed my thinking and understanding of myself and others. I did not realize how difficult it was for me to talk about my accomplishment and share my own challenges. I was literally in tears. Since then, I became the I'm Remarkable champion for PwC Middle East, facilitated so many workshops at PwC Middle East, but also took this to our clients and started facilitating this externally as well. With that, I will hand over to Tina.
Super. Thanks so much. And thanks again for taking the time to join me in this important discussion and session. So let's kick it off with a few questions to get to know us a little bit better. Noting what an international and diverse group we are, let's talk about how culture comes into play with I Am Remarkable and how the theme of self-promotion and confidence continues to come up. You each touched on it just a little, but can you speak about how culture presents itself in your lives, in your workshops, and in your workplaces? Xena, I'll kick it to you first.
Thank you. And let me start by saying I'm originally from Iraq, in case you're wondering about the accent. So I think some of the culture elements are kind of embedded in us, and and I'm not saying that we have good cultures or bad cultures. I'm saying there are certain things that we need to be aware of and take the best of our cultures with us in our journey. In my journey, quite honestly, I felt being raised by my parents. I always been questioned about, this is not good enough, you can do better. When I brag about an accomplishment that I've done, the reaction always been, well, this is expected of you. So I didn't realize that in my head the entire time I was really building something against self-promotion. So I started not talking about my accomplishment, not talking about my challenges, because I felt, well, no matter what I talk about, it's not good enough. But quite honestly, throughout my career, and I'm Remarkable really helped me get into that mindset, helped me realize talking about accomplishment, it's not easy. And your culture, your background will play the noise in the back of your head and tell you, stop, don't do it. This is too simple. This is too easy. Why are you going that route?
No, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Tequila, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, similarly, from an early age, there's always been this expectation of greatness. Like there was always no matter what you do, it needs to be the best that you can do. And what I recognize from that is that has trickled down even into the way in which I do work and then the work that I expect from the team and the people that I lead. It's like we start from this space of wanting to achieve greatness and then pushing each other to do great. And one thing that I've had to kind of learn was this art of like the humble brag, because there's, self-promotion sometimes gets seen as a negative thing, that you're bragging on yourself and you're just talking about yourself. But the reality is, if it's steeped in truth and you are telling someone what you've accomplished, that's not bragging. It's speaking the truth and being able to have the confidence to do so. And so I've had to learn a little bit around, there's nothing wrong with starting from a space of whatever you touch, it needs to be great. And then having some pride and being able to say, here are the things that I've done. So for the longest time, one of the things that I was most proud of within Best Buy, within the organization I worked for, is the fact that I was the first person to do every job that I had. But for me originally, I didn't see that as anything that was a great feat. It was just something that was done. And it wasn't until others said to me like, oh my God, that's amazing. You should talk about that. That I was like, oh, well, maybe I should, maybe I should talk about that. But I hear you, Xena. When you're born and you're raised with this notion of whatever you touch, it needs to be good, then you just start from that space of this is what's expected. Like this isn't out of the normal, but for others, maybe it is.
Thank you. And I think we should all hashtag humble brag now for the rest of the day. So I have that noted down. Natalie, what are your thoughts?
Hey, so when I got asked this question initially, when you put that out there, I instantly thought about the impact that IAmRemarkable has in the organization. But actually, so much of what you guys have already said resonates with me. So growing up, like so many kind of stigmas and like things were put on me where I didn't even think about how those things actually impact me today. So little things like, marriage before children, go to uni, get your degree, and all these expectations that are placed on you, as you grow up, dependent on like your culture and your upbringing, impact the way you think. I was very lucky in the sense that I grew up in London, and actually London is such a melting pot of cultures. And I come from a very, very mixed heritage. So it made me really conscientious of what different people place value on, how different people work, how different people think. And I now work in a really diverse and global company where I think we have a really good kind of awareness of people's traditions and ways of working. And we actively try to honor these and encourage everyone to experience IAmRemarkable, pulling on all those different ideologies around the concept of self-promotion. I think in a lot of cultures, self-promotion it's really strange, but it's deemed as almost like unattractive. But IAmRemarkable has served as like a really great eye-opener, explaining the importance of it, but also highlighting the challenges that I think underrepresented groups generally and minorities can feel when they're taken on that journey initially. Xena, you mentioned when you went through that journey at the beginning, you were really, you found it quite emotional. And that definitely resonates with me as well. I definitely found it a lot harder than I anticipated to kind of sit there in front of people and say, this is what makes me remarkable, when I thought that would actually be something that comes quite naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I completely, as it was resonating with me as well. I grew up with all boys in my family. My dad was a mechanic. I was always under a car. And the expectation was I was one of the boys till my hat came off and my hair fell down. And people looked at me like, oh my gosh, why are you doing that? You're a girl. And I used to laugh because my dad would tell me you could do anything. So I still feel that to this day as I go. But let's talk about mentorship, because I think that's really important as we are pivoting through some of these. Once you walk out of an IAmRemarkable workshop, how do you continue the journey of self-advocacy and promotion? Because I do feel having mentors, I have a board of directors, having someone that helps you stay accountable and as well helps encourage you and is an advocate for you, which are different things, I think is extremely important. So Natalie, what are your thoughts on that? I'm going to pop right back over to you.
So I'll put my hands up and say that I'm someone who has good intentions when I go to create a habit, but often I can fall off the wagon quite quickly if there's not someone else there kind of helping to keep me accountable. So I find that leveraging someone else to keep ourselves accountable for change can really, really help. Just committing to someone verbally and saying, this is what I'm trying to do, and getting them to almost check in with you, doing those little accountability check-ins. I think it can be really hard to build a habit, and we don't always recognize that building a habit mentally is exactly the same as building a muscle at the gym. Like in order to flex that muscle and grow it, it requires nurturing, it requires time. And I think as humans, we're inherently our own biggest critics. We're our own worst enemies, and we're constantly kind of speaking negatively to ourselves. Well, we wouldn't necessarily take that approach with our friends and our peers. So I think recognizing that and switching the dialogue to kind of looking at your accomplishments, recognizing them can be challenging, and it can take a lot of practice. So what I try and do after the IAmRemarkable sessions is I encourage the groups to sync up regularly, to remind each other that work we do in the classroom shouldn't be lost if it's something that we work on following the session. So we have a automated Slack channel where we have like a bot that comes out every week and says, what makes you remarkable this week on Remarkable Wednesdays? And it encourages people to keep the dialogue going and kind of reference what they've done that week to be remarkable, and then tag someone else to continue that conversation. So we keep that ongoing after the classroom-based Xena?
Well, I totally agree with you, Natalie, and I think that I'm Remarkable Wednesday is something we do as well. So it keeps the momentum going. But also, what I realized, what kept us going, is really creating that community of allyship. And let me start by just explaining a little bit the differences between a mentor, a sponsor, a coach, and an ally. And I don't mean to lecture, but I get this a lot because I do mentorship a lot. So, and I will put it in simple terms. So, a coach is someone who will shed light for the upcoming months or year, and usually coaches related to your career performance or your gym or something like that. So it's a short-term insight. Then the mentor is someone who will shed light for the upcoming years and not necessarily career related. A mentor could be a mentor for any reasons. The sponsor is someone who will take the light and put it on you and make sure that people realize your accomplishment. They understand what are the things that you can bring to the table. As Tequila mentioned, if you don't need a seat at the table, you can bring your own, but that sponsor can help you get the chair to the table. So that's the role of the sponsor. Now, the ally is someone that probably play the role of amplifier, confidant, and all the different types of allies, but without you knowing in most cases. But to link it back to I'm Remarkable, quite honestly, what I've realized, once we're done with a workshop, instantly a group of allyship has formed and moved into being really an allyship community, and that cycle started of creating more allies. So on the back end of I'm Remarkable workshop, usually I end up having so many allies and I connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Tequila, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I just want to piggyback on what Xena was saying a little bit, because two things. One, never underestimate the power of an ally and when you can also play those roles. And I think the IAmRemarkable classes are a great way, at least for us within Best Buy, where you get to connect with people you would never meet necessarily. And you have a commonality of learning that you come together for. So then to continue on that journey helps, lift all tides, if you will. But the other thing that I think is super important, and I just had this conversation within our women's ERG recently around both mentorship and sponsorship, and it comes up so much, and everyone always wants to know, like, how do I get a mentor? How do I get a sponsor? And what I think gets missed sometimes is that you can sometimes convert your mentor into a sponsor. And, being thoughtful about the conversations that you're having so that that person on the other end who has a certain type of political capital or influence is able to learn about you and your accomplishments. So this is where all of those pieces come into play, because you have to be able to advocate for yourself. You have to be able to demonstrate your competencies. You have to be able to share your accomplishments with that person to then pull them in a way that they can start to connect the dots and help you. So, sometimes mentorship is sometimes the easiest thing to get, but if you're really thoughtful, and some might even say strategic with it, you can turn that mentor into a sponsor just by being able to demonstrate what you're bringing to the table that maybe they would have never been able to see.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And you never know when you're going to cross back paths again as you go throughout your career. I think that's one thing I've learned. One thing too, I'm going to pause and tell you, don't forget, type in those questions. We're looking forward to engaging with you as well. So a plug back to the audience. Let's continue with another one that's near and dear to my heart. That's work-life balance. I always laugh and say work-life balance is like having one foot in hot water and one is cold, and you're not equally warm at the end of the day. And all of us here have had different brilliant careers, and we've all existed with having brilliant careers and a personal life. For myself, I have 2 kids in college, 2 girls about to graduate. Please, dear Lord, let them graduate. I have another adopted kiddo in the military. I have a husband of 33 years who is also a stay-at-home dad long before that was popular. and even still isn't as popular as I would hope. And work-life balance meant something different for me, meaning we made it work no matter what, but it wasn't always balanced. And that's what I mean by hot water and cold. So Tequila, what are your thoughts on that?
Funny enough, in recent months, I've kind of shifted my thinking around this notion of work-life balance into more of like work-life alignment. So one of the most important things for me is for my home life to be balanced, like without a doubt. So everything else that happens or anything that's asked of me, it has to be in alignment with me maintaining the balance within my home. So for example, I travel a lot for work. However, my priority is at home. And so if my daughter has a performance or if my son has a championship game, then I have to align my work travel to not interfere with me keeping my balance at home. This alignment also is for me as a woman. So making sure that I'm making time for myself to be able to be grounded mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, knowing what my stress triggers are. And when one of those things are off, allowing myself the time to get back on track and getting back into alignment with myself. Because if I'm not in alignment with myself, if my home isn't balanced, then I can't give anything to work. I just can't. And I firmly believe that importance has to be placed on your home life and those that you care about and those that care about you and the things that make you happy, because work will always be there. It's not going anywhere. And it's a necessity for most of us to be able to work. But those key points of connection with others are priceless. So for me, it's alignment more so than anything.
Xena, what are your thoughts on that?
I would say it is integration. So for me, and I will use some examples, I don't think there is a work-life balance. And I think the example, Tina, the hot water, you mentioned cold water, spot on. Work will never end, and you have to get your priorities right. So for me, I integrate my personal life within my work schedule. So for example, if I have to go to the gym at 12 noon, I put it in the calendar at 12 noon, and everybody around me need to realize that this is Zena's gym time. If I need to take care of something at home, I will put it in the calendar as well. I also realized when I travel, I tend to have the urge of checking my emails and all of that. And in the back of my head, Xena, work-life balance, this is personal life, don't go there. No, actually, checking my emails once a day, maybe giving it 30 minutes or 20 minutes will get that urge off my mind and get back on with my personal life. So it's all about integration for me.
I love that. Natalie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, what Xena said just now, it's funny what you were saying about you go to the gym at midday, and it's funny because I thought I had work-life balance figured out until I had a child and my world was just rocked. And now I've started getting to this point where I'm slowly trying to kind of piece it together and get some balance going on, because initially it can be quite overwhelming coming back to work after having a kid and trying to get that balance right. And I think what Tequila said about finding alignment with what makes you happy is really important. Otherwise, you don't show up to work and you can't perform at your best. There's been so much research done around kind of productivity, and a lot of us in this kind of toxic productivity spiral of just doing and doing and doing on this hamster wheel. But actually, in order for us to kind of show up and work at our kind of optimal level, it's actually about recognizing how important rest is to reset, and kind of in order to work at your best, being able to slow down sometimes and take time for those things that bring you genuine joy. Because all that happens is when we're juggling constantly, it's actually impossible to be present for all of those things at once. When we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're feeling stressed, we actually cognitively close down. And that means we're actually categorically unable to perform at our best. So for me, like, being productive actually means filling up my own cup before filling up everybody else's and taking time for self-care. If you want me at my best, that's kind of just my expectation. Like, I need to kind of have those moments to myself, especially as someone who struggles with kind of even concentration and staying, immersed in something for too long. I almost need to get up and take myself away from things every now and come back to it for that reset and that refresh. So yeah, that would be what I would say.
I love that. Key takeaway, put on our oxygen mask first for those who fly like I think we all do. We hear that all the time. We just need to pay attention. I love that. All right. Before we get into Q&A, so again, get those questions in there. One piece of advice or a key takeaway from this topic or any of that we've discussed, what would it be? If you're going to give the audience one nugget that they're going to leave with, what do you think it'll be? So Xena, I'm going to pop it to you first.
Sure. I would say feel remarkable, because you need to feel it and experience it first in order for others to notice it.
I love it. All right, Tequila, how about over to you?
I would say be curious and act with courage. So like the more you allow yourself to this notion of curiosity, the more you'll learn about others and possibly yourself. And curiosity trumps assumptions that you would then make. And instead it opens up new doors for you. And then that's where the courage comes in, because regardless of any of the apprehension that you or the fear that you may face, leading with courage will allow you to go a lot further faster.
I love that. Natalie.
Yeah, so for me, it'll be kind of the more time and energy we spend focusing on our strengths, the less power we give to our weaknesses. So just being an advocate for yourself, I think it empowers others to do the same. And I think for most women or just even people in leadership, we're juggling something, right? We just spoke about a work-life balance, whether it's family life, personal challenges, or just asserting ourselves. So the most rewarding thing I think we can do for ourselves is spend more time just celebrating our accomplishments than worrying about what we can't do. Just say yes to opportunities and learn afterwards. I think don't let that inner imposter syndrome and that little voice tell you can't, because what I found is the biggest part of learning is often the failures that come with that. So once we accept that failure is just kind of part of that organic journey, it kind of takes the fear and the scariness away from it. At the end of the day, most of us aren't heart surgeons. It's generally not a life or death matter when we're dealing with work. It's just a case of giving it a go, showing up and doing our best, even if we feel like we're faking it, until we just become it.
All right, perfect. I love that. And, you know, when I'm thinking about it, we all have the same 86,400 seconds. Use them well. And don't be afraid, Tequila, I'm going to steal that from you. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask someone for 15 minutes to be part of that sponsorship, part of that advisory group, part of that mentorship. So take the challenge from each person that has been on our panel to reach out to someone to make them part of your group to continue to expand. We do have a question from the audience. What advice would you give to males in the workplace to help support women and other underrepresented groups in the work environment? So anyone want to answer that? I'll give a real quick one, and then while y'all are thinking, I'll pop it over. You know, I will never forget when I have been in the workplace that it was actually a male who actually showed up for me when I was speechless one time. I walked into a room, it was at an M&A firm, and they said, "Oh, great, thank goodness you're here. I need coffee." And I remember I was the only female. I'm always, you know, one of the only women in tech. And I turned around and the male counterpart said, "Better let me get the coffee. She's making all the decisions for us," and turned around and left. And not only did he give me the seat, he left his chair and he left everything else. So it was that moment that I realized it is important for males to show up and to continue to help with the voice, a seat, and be an advocate. Tequila, thoughts?
Yeah, it's along the same lines of that. The first thing that came to mind was that helping be the voice. So often are women or people of color or the combinations, the voice isn't heard. You know, I have a number of times where I may make a statement and then my male counterpart will say the same thing that I said, and they'll go, "Oh, that was great," right? But how wonderful is it to go, as Tequila was saying, and just give some acknowledgement to those voices that are in the room and help have a space, or just be knowledgeable of where, if you see that person's ultra silent, turn it over and say, "Do you have anything else to add?" Or what do you think? So that those simple, small cues, acknowledgement and being a voice, I think would be fantastic for men to do as an ally.
I love that. Xena or Natalie, what are your thoughts?
I would say it is important to bring them to be part of the discussion. I notice sometimes we tend to talk about our own challenges, issues, accomplishment among ourselves as females. So they need to be part of the discussion. And quite honestly, linking it back to I'm Remarkable, the best workshops that I have facilitated are the mixed gender. And there were so many aha moments where I realized the males in the room didn't realize the challenges females are going through. So they need to be part of the discussion and they need to be part of the solution. That's my take on this.
I love that.
Definitely.
Natalie?
Yeah, I would just say that we all have a voice, but not all of our voices are as loud. So actually just having allies in any context just kind of supports whatever we're trying to do. With I Am Remarkable, I remember when I kind of joined the initiative, one of the core focuses and the way it got built up was initially around underrepresented groups, and women were one of them. Some of the statistics that they kind of show on I Am Remarkable about women in leadership and the perceptions around kind of women self-promoting were like wild to me. I couldn't believe there was such negative stigmas around self-promoting as a female. And I guess we could talk about it. We could talk about it till we were blue in the face. But actually coming from our allies, it just gives it that real kind of holistic, yeah, this is actually happening. Like, it's not just a female talking about her own experiences. It's not just subjective. This is the reality. So we definitely need those allies. And I think we're doing a great job of having those so far.
I love it. And I think encourage them. If you decide to have an I Am Remarkable workshop, bring them with you. There is nothing wrong with them being in the room and being part of it. So I would encourage that. All right, we have another question. This is a fantastic question. How do you handle failures or setbacks that sometimes make you question whether indeed you are actually remarkable or not? And I will tell you, if you've lived long enough, you're going to have those setbacks. So that's number one to start. And we got to pick ourselves back up and continue to march on, because it is not easy at times as we go. Xena, what are your thoughts on that?
Very, very interesting question. And as you mentioned, Tina, we all went through this, and this is part of being human. What I would say, I think we're too harsh on ourselves. I think, and personally, when I get these moments, I stop and think, and obviously, I would initially I will start questioning myself. Am I remarkable? Am I good enough? Am I doing the right thing? Then I tend to, train myself to stop these questions and stop the emotional draining that's happening. And I wonder if I'm good for the right fit for this project, if I'm the right fit for this role, because I'm good enough and I'm remarkable. The equation is not working for some reason. I need to figure out what is not working and change that, and not change me and damage my mental health.
Yeah, I love that. Tequila, what are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree. When I saw the question, the immediate response is, first of all, you are remarkable, regardless of what the setback is. Never change. I love how the workshops, we do the hard part, which I think the hard part in the workshop is writing down all the reasons why you're remarkable and then saying it out loud. So you've already done that piece to say, here are all the reasons why I am remarkable. That's the hard piece. Now it's, okay, how do I make this work within all of these other things? And so, as opposed to dwelling on what the setback or the failure was, what are the learnings that you're taking from it to help you to be better with whatever you do forward? That's where it's all mindset and figuring out, okay, that didn't work, so let me do something different. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result. So I stay remarkable, never question that piece.
I love that. Natalie, any thoughts on it?
Yeah, I love what you just said, Tequila, because that phrase, that saying really resonates with me, and it's something that I kind of say to myself all the time. It's almost my little mantra as well. So I think, like, I would be lying if I said there weren't many times in my life where I sort of had a knockback and it did make me question my capabilities or my competencies or, how good I was at something. But I realized that in placing my value, in other people, actually, I could allow anybody to completely destroy who I am at the core of me. And, someone could say something and that would really resonate with me. And I think as humans, we do tend to pick out the negative things. We could have 10 positive remarks in a day, but we just zoom in on the negativity. And that's okay. Like, we're normal, we're human, right? And I don't think that kind of demonstrates that you're anything less. I think it means that you care. But I would say try not to place your value on other people's opinions, because they are opinions, they're not the reality. And also just, it is a mindset thing, isn't it? It's recognizing that, yes, you're probably going to fail at points, but I must say that most of the things that I've learned in life have been through really, really messing them up. So mess them up, learn from them. Don't do it again if it really is that much of a mess up and, you've taken something away from it that's positive, and just keep on going and just
absolutely
be all right.
I love that. I didn't mean to stomp over you, Natalie. I appreciate that so much. It's so exciting. It's like when you see a mountain, do you go around it, over it, through it, under it? How do you get on the other side? And there are times when we've just got to keep climbing when we fall down. So I just resonate with that so much. Thank you. I love that. All right. So we have another one. What advice will you give an IAmRemarkable facilitator who is trying to, quote, keep it interesting in time, all the time in the workshop? And this is one that I absolutely love, just to let you know. And it is so much fun when I think about how do I do things that keep it interesting. One is, if you think about why you're remarkable, one thing you have is it can help with your resume. And this is a great time to write everything down, because these are things that are fantastic. But I'm going to give it over to a couple of people and then I'll take it up at the end. Xena, what are some things that you've done?
Well, personally, I think facilitators need to bring the human element. You need to keep it genuine. You need to be vulnerable if you can, and keep it authentic. As maybe the facilitators would agree with me, the value is not really in flipping slides. The value is in the discussion. So the more you keep this discussion authentic and genuine and heart to heart, the more interesting it would be. And every time I use myself as an example and I share examples with the audience and the participants, immediately they open up and they feel they want to share as well. That's my piece of advice.
I love it. Natalie, any thoughts?
Yeah, also quite similar to that. I would just say keeping the interaction going, because actually, just to echo Xena, like just going through a slide is never going to engage anyone, and it doesn't show a human aspect of what we're talking about. Like, the whole point of the initiative is to bring these discussions to the forefront of everybody's minds, to get everybody involved, to bring in allies, to educate. And we're only going to do that if we're just having those challenging conversations, being vulnerable, and just getting everybody involved. So I would say that I try to keep it as interactive as possible, especially when we're doing online virtual sessions. It can be really challenging to get people to engage with content online. Luckily, the course itself is quite an interesting course. I say that, subjectively, potentially, but you know what I mean? I think it's a lovely course, and I think a lot of people do buy into it naturally. But you can do different things like use the chat box, get people to raise their hands, pull on names, and just have fun with it, That's what
I love that. And I think, people feed off of each other. So just as Natalie and Xena were talking about, and just as we're doing here, Tequila, with all of us, it's getting us engaged and excited about being a part of it. So I think that's another hook as people are getting excited and encouraged. All right, we have another one. Can you offer a couple of tips when you need a quick confidence boost before a presentation or an interview? I love this one, by the way. You will laugh. I have an entire playlist just for that. I am happy to share later. I am a big proponent of music, not what we heard at the beginning of the show, but really exciting. Get in the mood, get us excited about being encouraged and being there. So that's one. The other is I have encouraging signs all around my desk and saying, so I can remember one more time why I'm remarkable and why that I am the one for the job, or I am the one in the room, and I am the one that needs to be there. So anyway, I'm going to pop it over to my panel. I think I've given them enough time to come up with some things as well. Tequila, what are your thoughts?
The first thing that came to mind for me is is for that, but even bigger is I keep a win journal, if you will. So like I have a booklet of all the things that, and on a regular basis, I keep track of when I've done something that was great, or I received a kudos, or whatever the case may be, because those are the things that remind you of like, yeah, you really are that woman. Like you really do a good job. And so I hear you on the music, Tina. I love my win journal. And then before anything big, I honestly just take a second and just breathe and give my own self a pep talk of like, you got this, you're dope, you were chosen for a reason, rock it out. Be yourself, that's all you can be. And then do the thing.
I love it. All right, Xena.
Well, I agree with the journal thing, definitely. And something I've done since my first I'm Remarkable workshop, I started an I'm Remarkable journal. So every night before I go to bed, I write, I'm remarkable because, and I do one sentence. And yes, sometimes I don't feel remarkable and I leave blank. But before an interview or a major presentation or a panel like this one, I open the journal and I look at the I'm Remarkable and I look at all the great things that I've done. And it resonates with me that, yes, I'm more than enough and I am remarkable. And it gives me the confidence and the booster that I was looking for.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm stealing that. Natalie, well, how about you?
So mine's a little bit different, actually. So I do what I call a body audit, basically. And I think about what my body language and my tone and stuff says about me, because like I've looked into quite a lot of research around this. I find it really, really fascinating. Your body language accounts for 55% of your influence, and your tone is 38%, and the words you say are only 7%. So there's a lady called Amy Cuddy. She does these TED Talks, and she's incredible. I absolutely love her. And she does this TED Talk about how your body language can shape who you are. And one of the things that I took away from one of her TED Talks is power posing. And I get a few funny looks when I'm doing this, by the way, because I'm often in like these see-through meeting rooms. And all that is for 2 minutes, I hold what is kind of deemed as a high power pose. So I might put my hands on my hips, put my hands up in the air and just make my body big for 2 minutes, because it's been proven to kind of lower the levels of cortisol in your body, so your stress hormone, and kind of increase your testosterone, which is your feel good and dominant hormone. So because I tell people to do this on my training courses, I try and practice what I preach, and I try and do it before I'm really nervous about something. And I've actually found, I think it helps, even if it is just psychologically, it does something. It injects a little bit of pizzazz into what I'm doing, and then I just kind of think about my tone as well, and how I can leverage that to really engage my audience, because your tone is everything. Honestly, things can be misconstrued so easily via email and text. So whilst you've got that FaceTime, use your voice.
Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness. So many good nuggets. I hope the audience is capturing all of these and taking notes as I am. All right. How do you manage imposter syndrome as part of the journey? It can creep back up at you at very unexpected times, and we need to be able to identify it and course correct. Absolutely. 100% agree on that. Xena, what are your thoughts?
Very interesting, and again, this is something we all experience, and it depends on where you are in your career. Sometimes you have that self-doubt, and I will tell you a secret. Something that I've learned early on in my career, and thanks to my mentor back then when I was in the States, taught me something. He asked me to look for great leaders that I can really look up to, or someone that will really inspire me. It could be anyone, an actor, or a hero of some sort. And I wrote them down. When I went and met with him the next day, and he said, pick one and start acting like this person when you come to work. I want to see that in you. And I didn't realize what that person, what my mentor was doing back then. He was trying to make me feel and experience the leadership and live the title that I was given. Because back then I doubted the title that I was given, and I wasn't sure if I'm good enough. And by doing that day in and day out, I don't need to act anymore. I am really having that great leadership skills in my mind, and I'm the great leader that I would love to inspire others as well.
I love that. Thank you. All right, Natalie. Yeah, go ahead.
I would just say, you doubt yourself, but kind of do it anyway. Like force yourself to get into a habit of like just doing, even when that feeling is there, because the feeling is just a feeling. And being really transparent with you, like a lot of the time that feeling shows up for me, a lot of the time actually, even when people wouldn't necessarily think it's there, or the perception is, oh, you know, Natalie's confident, she's got it 100% together. There's definitely a little bit of imposter syndrome in my head, but I kind of try and recognize it as a thought. It's a thought, and it's not necessarily the reality. All I can do is show up and do my best. And again, I'll just go back to like, and if it messes up, like what's the worst that can actually happen? Just try and take some learnings away from that, and just keep working on your own mindset as to how you approach new challenges. Like even a little mantra, like I can do this, I've got this, or doing a power posing, whatever works for you.
I love that. And I laughed as we get it between technical challenges. I mean, to let you know in the background, I lost power a few minutes ago. And so thank goodness we have battery operated everything. But as we go, we're going to have challenges, and we just have to keep working and keep going and figure out as we are going through the day when those challenges hit, how do we just keep going and get back up to it? So I love that. We have another question. How has being an IAmRemarkable facilitator helped you grow your career? I love this one, by the way. And what is one way you leverage being a facilitator to support your personal and professional growth? So Natalie, do you want to start? I'll end this one.
Cool. I guess it forced me to do the very same thing that I was really scared of. And actually, I think Xena mentioned right at the beginning, she said that, you know, I am remarkable, but actually when it came to actually being immersed in that session and saying it, I was freaking out. Like I was a mess. I cried. And I thought, why is this so hard? And it made me question, you know, why at the core of that. And it made me continue to practice those things. And it actually really ties into some of the things that we do as a business in terms of self-promoting in order to get kind of career, you know, progress our careers. And it just helped me to do that more effectively, essentially. Once I got on over that initial hurdle, I just kept it going.
I love it. Xena, how about you?
Well, I have a practical example to share. You know, like any other organization, we have end of year reviews. And I was a big believer that accomplishments speak for themselves. And I never talk about my accomplishment, and I never really humbly bragged about all the great things that I do throughout the year. So when I attended the IAmRemarkable workshop, it made me stop, think, write down all the great things that I've done, marched into my mentor and coach office, who was in charge of representing me in performance roundtable discussions. And I was like, guess what? Let me tell you how remarkable I am. Da, 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 da. And I just said it all out loud. And it was a setback moment, because that person wasn't used to hearing Xena talking about her accomplishment in that way. And since then, I don't shy behind accomplishments. I made sure that I brag about them if they are based on facts, and I do them right when I have the right time and the right occasion for it.
No, I love it. And, you know, when you think about it, how has it helped grow your career? For me, it's helped me constantly keep that focus of why I'm remarkable and why I also can get the next position, why I can move to other positions, where my skill sets are, why I'm remarkable, and how I can keep moving forward. So I, you know, use that as part of really the career guide that I have. And being a facilitator helps give a presence and a calmness to be able to answer interview questions, to be able to sit down and work with teams of people and be able to, as you're going through it, have that, again, presence and top of mind. That the other thing it does is it's helping remember everybody's on a journey. And I want to give every underrepresented talent a voice, and every person there a voice that maybe not have one. So for me, it's been incredible as I've just gone on this journey, and it's continued to help. So that's one thing I will say that it's helped in my career and my journey. And in case you noticed, by the way, we are a little bit trying to get Tequila back. We did have a little bit of problems there. So that was the one thing. All right, next question. We are close to reaching 500,000 participants for IAmRemarkable. Have you had a memorable participant that you have seen grown since they've experienced a workshop? I know I have, so I'll tell about that one. Natalie and Xena, y'all think about some for you. There was a female. She was from China. And she was an absolutely incredible participant who really struggled to say why I'm remarkable. And it was from, in fact, it will choke me up. It was from her culture. This woman was absolutely probably one of the most stunning women I had ever met, and was a doctor, changed her career path, had incredible accomplishments that she had never said out loud. In fact, the room was stunned when she actually told her story. And she said no one had ever asked. She had never given that opportunity or thought, because she was always told you can't have a voice. Her culture was that you can't speak up and don't speak until spoken to. And after the workshop, not only has she thrived, she has gotten 2 more promotions. She continues to reach out, and we have become fast friends. So I would just say the workshop not only changed her, it changed me. And it always, every time I get into the room, that's the person I think of as we're starting the journey. So it just makes it incredible. Tequila, we're so glad you're back. We had a question, as we're close to reaching 500,000 participants for IAmRemarkable, have you had a memorable participant since you've experienced a workshop? Did you have one in a workshop that you were in?
I did. We had a workshop where that was for all women in a smaller group. So it was outside of a work setting. And the amount of women who directly after that workshop formulated the groups and said, oh my gosh, I've been in corporate America for so long, but this is what I needed in order to give me a little bit of a voice to do a little bit more, was phenomenal. It was meant as a leadership development opportunity, and they have left with, there's a full list of everything that people are doing on their own to just showcase how remarkable they are, and the voice that they now have, that, you know, for some, they had been in the workplace for 15, 20 years, but it just, for whatever reason, skipped them. And this as a separate piece outside of the workplace has helped them in the workplace.
I love that. Natalie?
So there have been so many different individuals who've come on these workshops who have kind of gone through this whole journey of coming on, this workshop, not knowing 100% what to expect, going through it, breaking down sometimes, and then coming on the other side and just being like, wow, I just did that. It was like a breakthrough moment. And honestly, that makes me so proud. It makes me so happy as a facilitator. Some of these people like you, Tina, have become like my friends, and people who, advocate for IAmRemarkable, advocate for me, even like we advocate for each other, because we're like, you did that, you made me feel like this, and I'm like, no, I didn't do this, you did this for yourself, like you showed up and you put the work in. And one person that most recently, I just thought of this kind of her really, really kind of impacting me recently, is one of the girls on my team, who she's an apprentice, she's based in France, and she joined our team, and she didn't speak, she wasn't confident with her English. She would kind of be in team meetings and she'd be very shy and very kind of hesitant to kind of make her point, because she was so focused on the language barrier and getting things wrong. And yesterday she presented in our team meeting. I think she's actually here today. Shout out to Lucy. She presented in our team meeting, and when I tell you, she was like a whole different person. She presented the most amazing session about something that's happened to her recently, and I was just in awe of her. I just thought the change was so, like, it was so obvious and it was so big, and it was incredible to see. So yeah.
Awesome. Xena?
Well, let me start by saying I witnessed my own transformation. So that's a fact, and I want to put it out there. But the example that I would like to share, and I think it is linked to the previous question we had around self-doubt and setbacks and all of that. A colleague of mine who was not feeling good enough for consulting type of work. She participated in series of IAmRemarkable workshops, and of course, with IAmRemarkable, with the right mentor, right sponsor, and ally, she realized it is not the right fit for her, and she started her own business. And now she is a very successful entrepreneur in a very competitive environment in Dubai, and she feels remarkable every day.
That is just amazing. Thank you. The stories are incredible. Well, listen, we only have 4 short minutes left, meaning 1 minute each for why you are remarkable. And I would do a disservice if I didn't pause and say, Natalie, Xena, Tequila, can you just really quickly tell us why you're remarkable? Natalie, we'll start with you.
I am remarkable because I was actually really nervous about today being my first panel talk and being amongst women like yourselves who I absolutely admire and think are incredible. And I did it. I'm here and we got through to the end of this talk. So don't let the imposter syndrome tell you can't do it. I'm like a prime example. So
I love that, Natalie. Thank you. Xena?
Well, I'm remarkable because I had 5 miscarriages. I gave birth to a dead baby. But guess what? I feel totally blessed. Life is great, and I'm living it fully.
Oh, Xena, thank you for sharing. Such a heartfelt one. Tequila.
I am remarkable because I am able to rise against any challenge that I may face.
Oh, oh my goodness. And y'all expect me to go after that? I would say I'm remarkable. As a woman in tech, I find very few women in tech. And, I continue to pack my own sunshine while I run an organization. And every day I wake up and think, thank you for the day I have and the opportunity I have to impact different lives. And I am thankful for that. And that is why I'm remarkable. And as we go, I would just like to thank each of you. What incredible women, and what a gift, by the way, each of you that are watching has been given by listening to my panel. I could not have asked for a more impactful and incredible panel than is before you today. So take a minute and say thank you, whether it's through LinkedIn or find a way. But thank this incredible panel. And I want to personally thank you for being here as we come together for this discussion. This is our final event for our Women's History Month series, but all the sessions are now available on demand via the IAmRemarkable website. And there is still opportunity to book yourselves onto an IAmRemarkable website workshop. Now, as you think about it, each of these women that are here for a reason. They're here because they are remarkable and impactful and extraordinary. And I want to thank you once again for being part of the panel. And I would like to thank everyone. Have an incredibly extraordinary day. And we look at seeing you back on an IAmRemarkable workshop soon. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks.